MXGP, the podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MXGP, the official podcast, with me, Paul Malin, and Jason Thomas of Fly Racing, where this week we're going to start talking about everything that happened at the YPF MXGP of Argentina just a few days ago. What were some of the standout performances? Who maybe could have, should have, and has to do better going forward from here? And maybe what we can expect from round 2 in Andalusia, southwestern Spain this weekend. But before we go anywhere, let me introduce our guest and co-host, as always, Jason Thomas from Fly Racing. Jason, welcome to another episode of the official MXGP podcast. After 9 weeks on the road, you finally got to enjoy a weekend off. How was that, first of all?
It was amazing, but it was also kind of left me wondering what I'm supposed to do on a weekend. There was no racing, no MXGP, no MotoGP, of course, no SMX here. So it forced me to be a little bit off grid mentally, which is probably a good thing. But to be honest, I'm ready for more racing. So it's one of those things where you really enjoy the time off, but when the racing comes back around, you're ready for it as well.
Yeah, well, we obviously got our weekend off, but when you're looking at anywhere between 25 and 35 hours of travel to just get from mainland Europe to Argentina for that first round, it's obviously nice to have that weekend off when you get back on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and obviously allowing for the flight cases to get back so that the teams can pick them up and crack on with moving forward. In terms of this weekend, we're both back on the road. As I said, I go to the MXGP of Andalusia. You've got a pretty big weekend yourself. Once again, last time out, 2 weekends ago, you were at the Triple Crown in Indy. This week, you've got the East-West Shootout in Birmingham, Alabama. In Supercross class, Hunter and Eli separated, by 3-4 points? And then you've got that matchup between the two Monster Energy Star Racing Yamahas of Hayden Deegan and Cole Davies, who are both leading the standings in 250s East and West. A lot to look forward to for you this weekend.
Yeah, we've got a great championship on both fronts, really all three fronts for SMX. MX2 graduate Hunter Lawrence is leading the championship, which is really cool. I think the progress he's made over the last few years is surprising for me. It'd be really hard for anybody to have predicted this, especially just going back a few short years ago when he was kind of on the precipice of retirement. He really is a success story, and it's been fun to watch. And then, yes, these showdown rounds are really kind of what MX2 is completely, right? This national, worldwide series of 250 racing. We only get it in Supercross a few times a season. And the headlines, and really for Hayden Deegan, he's had problems with almost everybody in this class, both coasts. So whatever storyline you want to draw of, I can't wait to see Deegan race X, you can kind of create a narrative. So that showdown race is going to be really fun. And it doesn't seem like a weekend off does a lot of good, but I can tell you when, for being on the road, as you guys are just kind of getting into the front of, it really does a lot of good mentally. And I think you're going to see a lot of smiles when we get back to Birmingham.
Well, finally, for MXGP, the wheels are back in motion. And when we think about Argentina, we started going back there again in 2015, and we've had 3 different tracks now. Obviously, we were in Villa La Angostura as it looks on the pages, but Villa La Angostura is how they pronounce it locally, or close to that. Obviously, Cordoba last year, and then this year we were in Bariloche. So great in that we were 10K from the airport, 10K from the town. We were kind of in a triangle situation. We were right on the southern tip of that wonderful lake and the Patagonian Andes mountains and things like that. What were your first impressions of the circuit, first of all? I did a track preview on Friday where they were still ripping and watering and getting set up and things like that. And I'm not sure if you saw that. And if you did, how then that translated into the races on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, I didn't see your preview, which I'm sure you did an excellent job of as usual. But for me, it's always an interesting dynamic, because if you follow racing stateside, you know that the tracks are almost always constant, right? We go to the same cities, the same venues, the same racetracks, really don't even have, I would say, even 2% changes year over year, almost the same obstacles that when I was racing, say 15 years ago, it's the same jump. Like, I could tell you exactly how you have to hit the jump because they haven't even changed it since then. But this MXGP dynamic...
Only 15 years ago?
Well, I was racing 15 years ago still, yes. So I'm going to keep using it until it doesn't count anymore. But, the MXGP dynamic is so different because you're changing cities, brand new racetracks. So I think that's interesting because riders don't have any sort of like recollection. They can't say, well, these settings are going to work on this racetrack. So it's almost like a fact-finding mission every time. And I think that leads to more variance in the results because riders can't say, well, this is my best track of the year, I'm going to win. And you can almost like tell the time by how the results are going to go at particular races because we have so much data to draw from at certain tracks. So it's kind of a guessing game. What are you going to get? And so that first time where I get to see the track, I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like staring at the screen intently because I'm trying to learn the nuance of the track and what's the dirt like. And, you know, sometimes, especially I think this Patagonia round, wherever it may land, it's deceiving because when I look in the past, sometimes it looks like there's a lot of traction, but then you hear the riders talk about how slippery it is underneath it and how hard it is. So I'm always trying to look through that nuance. But this particular round, I thought came off really well. You listen to rider comments, you watch the racing. I don't think you can ask much more from a first-time venue than what we got. Incredible backdrop, incredible racing, looked like good traction, really wide racetrack, safe obstacles. All in all, I would have to say it was a success.
Yeah, it did. I think the rider comments on Friday when they looked at it, they were saying it was going to be pretty fast. And it was pretty quick on Saturday. We saw that in the qualifying, but the track crews did a fantastic job keeping it rough, put a lot more water in overnight and when we arrived on the track on Sunday morning. And those bumps then only got softer, got deeper, and it was a very physically demanding racetrack. I think it caught a lot more people out on Sunday than it did on Saturday.
Yeah, the amount of riding that, you know, MXGP and MX2 does versus our series is astounding. It seems like there's just constant bikes on track all weekend. So yeah, when you couple the first round of the championship with a very physically demanding racetrack on top of 30 hours of travel, yeah, I would imagine you're going to have some riders caught out physically on Sunday afternoon.
So in terms of what we've been queuing up this year, 8 world champions in the MXGP, the Premier class, 18 world titles between them. On paper, it's a stacked lineup, as people refer to it. And I guess great racing throughout the season is expected because of that. Did we get that in Argentina in the MXGP class overall without going too deep? Because we are going to break it down in terms of per rider. Just a general, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. But also, I really try to not draw conclusions from the first round so much. Regardless of where the championship is, I've always found if you try to decide how a season is going to go at the opener, you're most often wrong. There's too much variance, too much new everything, rider switching teams, new racetracks, travel, all those types of things. So I think we got more surprise versus anything else. Was the racing good? Sure. But I think we got a little bit of like, wow, I didn't really expect that so much. Is this what we're going to get more of? Or was this the outlier versus what we're going to see more of? That to me, in essence, that's the real question because we still have the depth. That didn't go anywhere, but it wasn't always in the results maybe the way we thought going in.
Well, you talk about surprises. At the top of the show, we mentioned surprises, you know, who should have done better, things like that. Surprises, I think, based on what we saw in the preseason, let's say January the 1st, when a 5-time world champion by the name of Jeffrey Herlings had his first day out on his new Honda HRC Patronus machine. I think the feedback from everybody was, doesn't look right, it looks weird, doesn't look comfortable. We all kind of in the background thought, or certainly you and I did on our last podcast, thought for sure he's going to hit the ground running, for sure he's going to improve. You know, you can never write him off. And Honda HRC Patronus, like I said, Tom Vial, his teammate, winning the qualifying race. Jeffrey Herlings, a double race winner on Sunday. They were first and third overall in the Grand Prix. And because of the points in the qualifying race that Tom scored on Saturday, they are now first and second in the championship standings. Surprise or not, because Jeffrey Herlings was fastest in the free practice. The time practice obviously then went 1-1. Tom was maybe the biggest surprise, but overall a surprise package there maybe at the opening round, hitting the ground running, as we said, and pulling off the victory at the first attempt in their new team surroundings.
It's an unequivocal yes for me. I didn't see any of this coming, and I never saw evidence that it was. Tom was really a standout. And if you want to go back to like Mantova, that we saw flashes of it, right? Maybe we should have read more into how competitive he was like in Mantova. I didn't expect that either. But to me, this was a, wow, how did I count out Tom Vial so early type thing? Because he was incredible. Jeffrey can you be surprised at a guy winning that has 100 plus GP wins? I don't know, but I still was because of what we saw early. I didn't see a lot to think he was going to be this guy. Like, he looked kind of on the back foot at a lot of the opening rounds, international rounds. But I think it shows the amount of work they put in. You know, like I think about Jeffrey saying, like, we had 20 Honda HRC engineers at the first test, right? So you can tell they really were behind this and put in the work to get him comfortable. And I think they made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. So we'll see if that's sustainable. That's that question I have. Is this a mirage, or is this going to be what we expect? Because there's a lot that can change track conditions, and there's a lot that can go on at the opener that won't translate when we get back. Like, think about Renault a year ago, wins the opener, and then it's kind of, we don't see that guy again for a long time, right? Now, I'm not comparing Maxime Renault and Jeffrey Herlings. That seems unfair, but it can be a misnomer what you see at the opener. So congratulations to Honda HRC, you know, Giacomo, everybody on board there. They knocked it out of the park. And to your question, I was absolutely surprised. I never saw that coming.
Yeah, knocked it out of the park. They're still waiting for the ball to come down, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
For Jeffrey Herlings, that was his first double race win for the opening round since his last year in MX2 in 2016. So for all he's achieved in his career, to say that it's, you know, been pretty much 10 years before he got a 1-1 at the opening round again, that's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, and to do it first time out on red, spectacular. And Giacomo was obviously saying, we've got our Behind the Gate new season is out now on MXGP-TV.com. Obviously, if you're a subscriber, you get it by Tuesday after the GP, so it's almost like a Drive to Survive behind the scenes. We knock out these episodes after each GP. But if you're not a subscriber, why not? But if you're not, of course, then you can get to watch them a couple of weeks later on our YouTube channel, where, incidentally, all of the previous 2-3 years of Behind the Gate in this format are now watchable. And Giacomo, if you watch the live on Sunday, we had a snippet of the Honda report where Giacomo was talking about, you know, you sign a 5-time world champion, you know exactly what you're getting. And he, in terms of getting up to speed, was saying how he's never seen or met a rider like Jeffrey Herlings who rides so much. That's all he does.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that steep kind of trajectory in where he was January the 1st to where he was in the preseason races that you mentioned a moment ago to where he ended up on Sunday, which, be surprised or not, was still pretty incredible.
Yeah, and really for Jeffrey, it's going to be the same question we've been asking for several years: is can he hold it together for, you know, some odd 19 or 20 rounds? That is going to be the question we can't answer until we get later in the season. We've already seen that he's on the level now. He you know, even at his advanced age and advanced career, he can still win. He's proven that a week ago. Can he stay healthy? That's it. That's the only question I have left. And unfortunately, for the short term, the last few years, the answer has been no. And we won't know, and he won't know until, you know, we get later. But I think everything's on the table if he stays healthy. Doesn't mean he's a shoe-in to win, but he will be in the fight. I think he showed that early. Yeah,
and obviously with Tom Vial, I mean, we shouldn't have been surprised, really. Maybe the biggest surprise was that he kind of got success at the opening round, a 2-time MX2 world champion, did 3 years in America, won 250 Supercross championships. So he's got pedigree. So we shouldn't be surprised, should we? It's just that, you know, he has adapted to that 450 very, very quickly.
I was surprised by the pace, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me Tom's going to put himself in great position, he's going to run around the front and be there, sure, because that's what Tom Vial does. That's really been the recipe for his entire career, is consistently set himself up for success, which has paid dividends for him. But the speed, I didn't think he would be able to not only get the start, but kind of ride away from the pack. Like, yes, Jeffrey went with him, but he was able to establish himself and get to the front consistently throughout the weekend. That to me was surprising. The raw speed edge that he had was the surprise for me.
Well, I mean, his starting prowess in MX2 when he was here, he got 61 foxhole shots during his time here. He picked up another one on Sunday, you know, in the second race, I believe. But that qualifying race, when you think of youth and experience, obviously Tom is a very, very experienced campaigner now with his 2 titles on both sides of the Atlantic. But you've still got that experience of Jeffrey Herlings, where in the qualifying race, Tom Vial was able to pull clear of everybody. Jeffrey went down, wasn't able to get back into the points, obviously the first 10 positions in the qualifying races. But then what we saw with Jeffrey and Tom on Sunday in the first race, Jeffrey led. Tom came around about lap 4 or 5, made the move around the outside before they entered that wave section, and then was comfortable there, a good, 3-4 seconds clear. But then in the latter stages of the race, Jeffrey decided, right, now it's go time. Let's push. I'm done being here in second position. I believe I've got the minerals to go after my teammate, and that's exactly what he did. So in terms of race craft and managing racing, you don't really get anybody better than Jeffrey, do you? Because that was textbook.
Yeah, and I think Jeffrey relies on his fitness in those moments, because clearly Tom had some sort of line set up, some sort of strategy that pace-wise was a little bit better than Jeffrey's early on. So you kind of see that, right? Like these guys that are ultra confident in their fitness, they'll say, okay, go ahead and go around because I need to figure out what you're doing here. Otherwise, I'm just fighting against it blindly. So you saw him settle in a few seconds, and he's watching the clock. He's biding his time. Really no different than race 2. He understands that, hey, when it's time to go, you can almost hear like an imaginary bell go off in Jeffrey's head. Is like, now it's time. Now I'm going to sprint all the way to the checkered flag here. And, you hear Garibaldi talk about, I've never seen anybody ride this much. Well, that's what it gives you, that elite fitness late in the race where he can go all the way to the limit. He can redline his heart rate for the last 3 or 4 laps. That is what he achieves by doing all of that riding, the endless training, the relentless work ethic that he has really trademarked for himself. When he puts himself in position there to win late, no one's going to be stronger. He's going to be able to go to a place suffering wise that no one else can. And he did it twice on Sunday. I think he proved what that all of that work will equate to if he puts himself in position to really achieve it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, congratulations to Honda HRC Petronas on what was an outstanding weekend. Sustainability is now what they're going to be looking for. Moving on to Romain Febvre, of course, the defending champion. Over the 3 races, well, let's talk Saturday first of all. Didn't really seem like his head was in the game initially. 7th in the free practice, 5th in the time practice, and in the qualifying race. But then on Sunday, showed up, goes 3-2, second overall. Again, led the second race, and Jeffrey hounded him down and made the pass with, a couple of laps to go. Great race management. But also, Romain said in his post-race interview that they were still trying to work out some, fine-tuning, some configuration. I don't know if it was engine or chassis. We were at altitude, 850 meters, 2,770-odd feet. Where talking to the mechanics, that equates to maybe around 5% loss in power overall. But even still, it looked like Romain was just going to run away with race 2, but it never happened. But he was still satisfied. He was on the podium second overall, and he's, 3rd in the championship. So what were your thoughts on Romain and the performance from Kawasaki Racing Team in general?
I was impressed. You just never know when, the age factor is going to show up. And you go away from racing for a few months and you come back and you hope that you're the same guy. You hope that you're still as competitive with a lot of guys. Gajser's back, Herlings is back, Vial's new to the class, Coenen takes another step. Like, you don't know, and this will happen if Romain continues to race into his mid and late 30s. It will happen eventually. You just don't know when that step is. Well, I don't think it's going to be in 2026 because the same formula that he used for success in 2025, he was using again in 2026, and it's still working, right? Don't have to be the fastest guy necessarily, but you just avoid drama. You're always competitive. You put yourself in a good spot, and he had pace at the end of the weekend. So for me, this was a really impressive weekend. Is he going to be champion again? That all has time to sort itself out over the next several months. But the big thing, I think, for Romain is establish yourself as a contender again, which he did soundly. And that was, I think, a big moment. And he sent a message to everybody as, hey, yes, okay, there was a lot of contenders out last year, and you can say, well, I only beat Lucas. Fine. But guess what? We have the full field in 2026, and here I am on the podium leading race 2 for over 20 minutes, right? That is, I think, a big message that he sent to the field. And it has to be confidence inspiring for him, too, to know that he's still the same guy that he was just a short year ago.
And as the old saying goes, you can't win a championship in the first round. You can certainly lose it. And for Romain, that experience Saturday, he wasn't really on the pace, second and a half, 2 seconds off during his free practice, time practice, quali, a distance 5th, distant fifth. But by the time they came round to Sunday, they'd obviously made enough changes, significant changes for him to be in the mix. How much of that sort of restart of race 2 affected his performance and concentration, because they were pretty much up there for 2 laps, you know, when the red flag came out, which then brings a full restart. So everyone's back in the waiting zone, refueling, trying to cool down, refocus and get himself back in that zone, ready to go again. And from Roman's side, he was able to get up front early and put that distance. But I just wonder whether there was maybe an issue there, or as he said, it was just like a technical issue that they're still trying to work out, whatever that may be, we don't know. But yeah, overall, I think he'll be happy and he's very much in the hunt. What about Tim Gajser? In our sort of last podcast, we talked about Gajser, how he looked the most comfortable out of the 2 5-time world champions in his new surroundings. 4th in the Grand Prix, 5th overall in the championship. Again, like Roman on Saturday, not really sort of breaking any records. 6th and 8th in the free practice and the time practice session. Was kind of in the mix, maybe sort of top 5 before he crashed hard in that qualifying race, but then bounced back with a 6th and a 3rd on Sunday. How would you rate that performance from Tim?
It was okay. I would just give it an okay. I'm sure they wanted more. I really think there was a few things. The starts weren't where he needs to be, right? If he puts himself at the front, I think he obviously, and that's a very basic comment to make, but I think positioning hurt him. He seemed to be fighting from mid-pack all weekend. You know, it just seemed like he needed to be charging forward. So I think it was okay. This is honestly the kind of result I thought we would get from Jeffrey. I just thought it would be like an okay weekend, sorting things out, learning the team, learning the motorcycle. It's not shocking, but I did think he would be better. And I do expect him to be better moving forward. But really, when you look at the Yamaha program the last few years, it's been not breakout rides. And that even saying that, Renault won this event a year ago, but I think they're still working things out and they will get better from here. But growing pains with a new team and new everything, new staff, new racetrack, that's to be expected. So I'm not surprised at it. You know, if a 4th in the race and 5th in the championship in the learning phase is as bad as it's going to get, I think that's okay, right? I think they probably learned a lot over the course of the weekend, which they'll be able to apply when they get to Andalusia. So I'm just going to give it a kind of a shoulder shrug from Tim Gajser, and I think he'll get better from here.
With that shoulder shrug, do you just add a meh as well, or is it just a shoulder shrug?
Nah, it's all right. I mean, I hold Gajser in a really high regard, so yeah. I did expect more. Truly, I did. But I'm not going to panic with a top 5 result all weekend long at the opener. Like that's not going to create a lot of panic for me. If we go into another weekend and he can't really sniff the podium again, maybe that's a little bit more concerning. But I just kind of was like, nothing really to write home about. Not great, not awful, decent points, and you just know it's a long season. That's really what I would take away for Tim.
As I was leaving the track on Saturday after the qualifying race, so I don't know, maybe an hour or so afterwards, he didn't see me. He was leaving the track with his girlfriend, and a couple of fans wanted some selfies and some autographs and stuff like that. He was walking very slowly. I think he took a harder knock than we all, sort of envisioned initially and imagined. So again, just to sort of see him, and you know what that's like. You have a pretty big knock, and you have to come back the next day. When you start cooling down, you can have your massage and everything else, but you're still going to cool down. Your body then's going to go into this mode of, trying to recover and whatever else. You wake up, you didn't maybe have the best sleep, you're stiff and you're sore, and you have a 15-minute warm-up session and then a break, and then you've got your 2 races. So maybe some of that was just the hangover from the crash and just trying to warm himself back up into, getting into that zone. Well, fingers crossed that's maybe what it was. But yeah, he didn't look like he was moving too cleverly on Saturday afternoon anyway after that crash. So
yeah, sometimes I always think it can kind of just take the razor's edge off, right? Like these guys are so sharp, and you think about the level of performance they're required. You kind of go into almost salvage mode over the weekend of like, okay, I just need to have a solid weekend versus like, no, I'm going to go win this World Championship round. Like you just mindset shifts a little bit. Sometimes it can even just be subconscious where you're just like, oh, I can't let this weekend be a big miss, right? Versus going in with huge intentions. And that could have absolutely been what happened. Is like, he may have left there going, this could have been so much worse. I'm nowhere near 100% today. So if I can come out of here with a top 5, that's a win almost. So that could absolutely be true.
Yeah. A rider that you know pretty well, obviously, they're on your fly racing program. Lucas Coenen, second in the championship last year, had a fantastic debut season. 5th in the Grand Prix, 4th overall in the standings. Saturday looked impressive. 3rd in the free practice, 2nd in the time practice, 2nd in the qualifying race. Hounded down Tom Vial, but couldn't find a way through. And we spoke about that briefly at the top of the program, where Saturday the circuit looked very fast. And so when he got in contention, it seemed like Tom Vial was fast in all the right places. And by the time Lucas got onto him, there was no way to make a pass, and it looked like he sat back. But then Sunday, 4th and 6th in the races. I saw something on his social media, an eye issue. I'm not sure what that was, whether it's an infection or something like that, but obviously not 100% on Sunday. Have you had any feedback from the team at Decali or not?
Yeah, I just spoke with him briefly. Yeah, kind of eye issue seemed to be the prevalent problem on Sunday. But for me, a very similar feeling leaving the event for me as Tim Gajser. Is okay, right? He showed flashes of brilliance. Need to eliminate the small mistakes, which can be very punitive, like that crash, I believe in race 1. Kind of took him out of the mix there, and then race 2 seemed like he was dealing with the eye problem. I don't have any real concerns for Lucas. He showed speed. He showed that he's going to be on form. Really, it's just I want to see him take a step where the bad weekends, instead of a race last year, like where with Sweden, where he's outside the top 10, or China, where he's out, just battling all day to be a top 10 guy, that can't happen in 2026. If you want to be a championship guy, those days need to be a 5th or a 6th. That to me would show real improvement, real maturity, taking a step championship wise. The rest of it, the speed, the starts, the intensity, all that, I don't see any reason for concern at all. So we'll see what next week brings, but it was kind of what I expected. Speed, but maybe a couple mistakes also. But I think this is a pivotal year. This is a big year for him, not career-wise, big picture, but I think everyone has these grand aspirations that he needs to continue that process. Like go out, maybe go win the qualifying race on Saturday. As everybody immediately would be like, oh yeah, this guy is going to be for real. So I don't personally have any concerns, but as is all things motorsports, or this level of, this is the ceiling for this sport. Everybody's going to take shots and say, see, the crashes are still there. I saw people coming. The crashes are still there. The mistakes are still there. We'll see. It's early, but this kid is the real deal. It's just, is he ready to be a champion yet is the question.
And I think we mentioned it previously on our other podcast, where coming into 2025, nobody really expected him to be a contender. Davide De Carli said, we expect him regularly top 5 fighting for podiums, but that's him working with him in the off season before the gate drop. And then of course he had his injuries pre-season that kind of detuned him a little bit for the first couple of rounds. But then when he found his rhythm and got back in the groove, he was very quick and very, very quickly on the pace as well, to the point where he won 15, 16 races, won the most GPs with 6, and challenged for that World Championship. But as you said before, there was no Tim, there was no Jeffrey. You haven't got the depth in talent that you have now. And having finished 2nd in the championship last year and coming in this year, there's a lot more expectation now. We know what he can do. And I just wonder whether in the back of his mind, even though he will say there's no pressure, only the pressure he puts on himself, and there's no pressure from the team, maybe subconsciously there was just an element of that the weekend with everybody together, and your pre-season races don't really mean anything. And maybe just trying to suss everything out. If he can take Saturday's performances from Argentina into Sunday, I think we're going to see him on the podium. And if he does that as early as round 2 in Andalusia, then he's going to be on the podium, I think, as a challenger for an overall victory for sure.
Yeah, this kid, I don't think he really fears much. He has a lot of confidence. I don't think it's to a point where, people get turned away from it. It's not like a cocky type confidence, but I think he believes in himself. And I think last year was a big step for that. So I don't think it's, hey, the moment, the pressure. I don't see that from him. I just think he's still young, and he's still every situation is still relatively new. So can he manage every single weekend knowing, like, to look at Febvre's season last year, and we talked about this before, when your worst result is a fifth, that really weighs heavily over the course of a championship. That is really, I think, what the ask is from Lucas. I have no doubt that he's going to win races in 2026. What do the bad days look like? How punitive are the bad days? Those are what I think it will determine his overall finish in the season, not the good days. The good days are going to come.
A couple of more riders before we move to MX2. Maxime Renault ran second in race 2 until he lost that front at the bottom of the hill, fell back to 8th, but encouraging. Ruben Fernandez, 10-5 over the 2 races. Andrea Adamo, 11-7, of course. Adamo, former MX2 world champion, new to the class. How did you rate their performances, starting with Maxime?
Yeah, I thought it was promising, right? And Maxime, he has so much potential. Like, the kid is blazing fast. He's so great, but can he stay healthy? Can he sustain performance? Can he show up every single weekend? So there have been riders in the U.S. where I've looked at this same thing as, I know what you're capable of. What I would like to see, though, is you just show up for every round. Can you be there and present at every round of the championship? If you can, I think the results will be there as well. But until I see it, until I see him be able to stay healthy, I'm not sure where this goes, because he simply has not been able to have any sustainability ever since he's jumped on the 450. So let's put one foot, the first foot in front of the other, stay healthy. And then I think if he can do that, good things will happen to him. You mentioned some other guys there too.
Yeah, Ruben Fernandez, Andrea Adamo.
Yeah, Fernandez was okay, right? I don't know. I think he's going to do the same thing he's always done. He's going to have flashes of brilliance, and he's going to have crashes where you see him at the bottom of the leaderboard too. I just think that's who Ruben Fernandez is. Wildly talented, but also wildly inconsistent. That has just been kind of his DNA thus far. Maybe he changes that in 26, but I have not seen a reason to think so yet. And then Adamo, I was really impressed with Adamo's speed. And maybe I shouldn't be when you look at Vial, former MX2 champ. These guys, like Lucas, jumps up from MX2, shows a lot of speed. Maybe that's just where these guys are on raw intensity and pace. But I was impressed by that. I think the 450, the rough racetrack, I think those things maybe surprised him, caught him out a little bit, as like how those guys can hold that intensity for such a long period of time on the 450 was a surprise to him. You kind of see Andre's sleight of build, right? Like, I think as he grows into the 450, he's going to understand that the fitness required on the 450 is just something different. It just takes more. So I'm going to give him a pass on that early and maybe let him grow into it. But I was very impressed. I want to make sure I say that. Was very impressed by the pace. He was quicker than I expected him to be.
Yeah, I think the one comment I'd seen from him over the sort of post-race was he'd never ridden a track as rough as that. And obviously when you can ride a 250 track that's rough, but you don't really feel it. But on a 450, and again, this is the difference between riding and training during the week and doing a couple of pre-season races, coming in for real, full lineup, everyone's on the top of their game. The track is going to churn out quicker and rougher than any of those places that you've been to leading into that opening round, especially with a new track build. And then, of course, I think that's where you get the realization, wow, man, this going from a 250 in MX2 to the 450 in MXGP, this is where it gets real. And I think he maybe felt a sense of that over the course of the weekend. But 11-7, he improved in the second race. Yeah.
When you think about the MX2 class, right? Say he pushes really hard, can't hold the pace, and then he drops back a little bit. He could find a comfort zone 4, 5, 6 and just kind of hang in there. I don't think there was a lot of pressure from behind for a guy of his stature, his level. He could kind of hang in there. In MXGP, if your tongue's hanging out and you're tired at halfway and you think you're going to drop back to 5th or 6th and just
that's a long second half.
Not going to happen. There's just way too much depth and way too much talent that will come through. And I think he learned that in race 1. I think you're like, you better find a way to pick it back up or you're going to run into think about the guys that are outside the top 10 that are still pushing. Guys like Sewer and Ferrado and these guys, they would love to see Andrea Adamo dropping back towards them. That depth just isn't there in MX2. So I think that was probably a little bit of a wake-up call, which he'll learn from. He'll improve from there.
We said at the top of the program that MXGP, how stacked it is in terms of 8 world champions with 18 world titles between them. One of those, Kai de Wolf, he wasn't there at the weekend, picked up a hand injury, thumb injury in one of the preseason races, wasn't quite ready to ride. He did try to ride Thursday morning. That's how late it was before he was even going to get on a plane to fly through the night, arrive Friday in Argentina. We're recording this on Wednesday. Tuesday evening, I saw video of him riding Lommel. So I'm not sure if that means he's going to race round 2 or
He
not.
announced it this morning. Yeah.
So he is riding.
Yeah, just this morning I was perusing Instagram before we recorded, and I saw he's in for round 2. Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's good because we've got Rasmus Jorgensen on our studio show on Saturday, midday Central European time. We've also got Tom Vial coming in and Camden McClellan, the MX2 rider. But in terms of Kai de Wolf, he wasn't there, which is obviously a shame because we know what he's capable of on a 250, and what we've seen, the snippets of video from their preseason stuff and his training in general. He looks like he's the real deal on a 450 as well. But if he's coming back and he's not 100% and it was a thumb injury, ligament injury, that can also be a little bit, it can hold you back a little bit. But if he is 100% and he is ready to go, the race fitness will come over time. When we do get him on the very, very top of his game, that's also going to be another spanner in the works for the likes of Jeffrey, for Tom, for Roman, for Lucas, for Tim, for Maxime. It's just... it's even more mouth-watering, let's say.
Yeah, when you look at, the way that Lucas has adapted, the speed that we just spoke about with Adamo there, Tom Vial, right? He's a few years removed, but I was kind of wondering how he would fit into this MXGP class. He immediately goes to the front. Why would I not think Kai will immediately go to the front? Now, can he hold that pace? Does that mean a podium on the weekend? I don't know, but I think qualification, I think early laps, if he can get the start, which was a problem on the 250. Now he has a lot more horsepower to deal with. So does that trend of mid-pack starts continue? That will be a big question as well. But I think on pure pace, I have no reason to think why he won't be immediately near the front. Look at what he's done, whether it's MX2, Motocross of Nations. He has speed to burn. So I think he'll be right in the mix right away.
Round 2 then this weekend, Southwest Spain, Andalusia, brand new circuit, as in for MXGP. It's not a brand new circuit. It has been raced in Spanish championships. And unusually for Spain, it looks like it's a sandy kind of circuit. I don't know the lay of the land, if there's a little bit of elevation, slight elevation, or if it's completely flat or not. We'll soon see when we get there in the next couple of days. But what can we expect from there? If you were going to sort of predict anything, more of the same from what we saw, or are you expecting, others to sort of step up? Are we expecting Jeffrey to dominate there? Are we expecting to even see Kai in the mix? How would you? I know it's a circuit we've not seen and it's difficult to predict, but we all know the riders. So what should we expect? Yeah,
it's a great question. It's down, I believe, in the southwest corner of Spain. So hopefully the weather cooperates. The last time we were in Spain, it did not at all. There's this early in the campaign. We were both there. And complete mutter. Yeah. I think I still have clothes that are stained with mud from that event. So
I left mine there. I didn't even bother repacking.
I threw my shoes into the field and I drove out in socks. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an interesting event. I spoke with Davide De Carlo. He said the same. We're hearing it's pretty sandy. So I think they're hoping it's a little bit sandy as well, just because, Lucas is so proficient there in soft conditions. But your guess is as good as mine, which is amazing, right? Without me having seen the event prior, I think everybody's kind of going in a little bit open-minded. And to me, this second round, the questions of, okay, was that first race, did that mislead us, right? Can we trust what our eyes told us at the opener? Or now that we're back, on European soil, we're back, we have the race trucks and everybody's back in familiar confines and back on their normal sleep schedules and food and all the things they're used to. Do the results change accordingly with that? To me, that's the real question is, was round 1 what we should expect in 2026? Or was it just an outlier? It's a flyaway event. Don't take too much away. And is round 2 kind of the real opening round back in the EU and what we're going to expect? To me, that's the $1 million question, which makes this so intriguing.
More on MX2 in a moment, but let's just have a quick word and a quick thanks to our sponsor of this MXGP official podcast, FMF, of course, the flying machine factory who for more than 50 years have been an integral part of the motocross scene, not just in America, but here in Europe as well, in MXGP, always striving for perfection, always innovating, built by hand from the ground up. FMF continues to innovate, building things the right way, the American way. Thanks again to FMF for sponsoring this podcast. Let's move to MX2. Simon Langenfelder, how cool was the defending champ? He might have had issues in the qualifying race with tangling with another rider, losing his spokes, having to come in, a wheel change, went back out on track, crashed at the top of the big monster downhill, got lapped, then he unlapped himself crucially by overtaking Sasha, then went 1-1 on Sunday. Statement ride all round, I thought. What about you?
It was. And this is, if you're the defending champion, this is the message you want to send coming in, truly. And, you know, he was really aggressive on Sunday, like with his passing. You saw how aggressively he went in there on Guillaume Perez. So that surprised me a bit. I don't know if I was impressed with that in a good way, or if I was maybe like, I think you're pressing a little bit too much there. Yeah. I'm not sure where I land on that, because part of me says, if you're extremely confident, you can afford to be a little bit more patient and kind of let the race unfold and get to the front, right? Or is the other side of that coin the right one, where they're like, no, he's so confident that he's not waiting on anybody. He's just gonna, if you're in the way, he's just gonna move you out of the way, because he's you know, an unstoppable force going to the front. So I don't know where I come down on that, but I was surprised to see him so aggressive.
I think because I've had to prepare the clips for the studio show on Saturday, and we've got Camden McClellan coming in, and obviously Camden was behind those two as that incident happened. So we've got it coming out of the left-hander down past pit lane, and we see that again. And just watching it in closer detail, Guillaume Perez did look across and saw Simon there and realized, I can't quite get enough, but I'd get across. But he thought because he was covering that inside single in the final turn, there was no way Simon was going to come down. But then when you watch again, Simon, I think, just got a pitch at the last minute, and then he was freewheeling on the front wheel, then hit and then bounced. And then kind of that pushed him and Guillaume Perez wide right at the moment where he didn't want to. Simon was able to get around the turn. Guillaume Perez went around the outside of the finish line. So I think, yes, it was aggressive, but I just think it was unintentional in terms of just that last kick, you know, more of a racing incident than anything else. But like I say, he's not going to put himself in a position round one where he's going to be a danger to himself and risk getting hurt, surely. Yeah,
let me ask you this. So, you know, yes, unintentional, but if a lot of times you wouldn't see him even press into a situation where he gets that kick, right? Like, that's where I don't like. Typically, Simon is just patient, calm, cool, collected. So it was surprising to me to see multiple incidents where he was getting aggressive with guys, pushing guys out. So I don't know. Fair enough. He didn't mean to do that. But also, a lot of times you would be like, well, how did you allow yourself to kind of be vulnerable to that kick to be that aggressive?
But at the same time, he, like Jeffrey in MXGP, rode very measured races on Sunday, was just happy to sit back, watch what was going on, the bigger picture. And then when he wanted to find second gear, he found it and then hooked third and made passes and had comfortable wins. You know, a very mature Simon Langenfelder after finishing, you know, third 3 times in the championship and then coming away with the championship last year. I think he's gone off, had a word with himself. He's got a new trainer, things like that. He's on a new program, which KTM support as well. And so how much freedom he has away from the rest of the team, I don't know. But he's very happy. I spoke to him on, I think it was Sunday morning as he was getting ready for warm-up. And he said that, you know, he's feeling stronger, upper body. His legs are stronger as well, you know. So whatever the program that he's on, he's definitely confident in himself, his ability, his fitness, his strength. And more performances like we saw on the weekend in Argentina, it's going to look pretty ominous for the rest of the riders in MX2 unless they can step up and match what he's doing.
Do you know if he's back? I wrote an article for Racer X magazine on his win and kind of what it means for German motocross to you know, second world championship in a very long time, if ever. Do you know if he's back riding in Germany again? Because that was a big departure in 2025. He stepped away from kind of the DeCarli training tracks and method to go back to Germany. Do you know if he's still doing that?
I think sort of Germany and Belgium, obviously they're pretty close to each other. So I think he has the best of both worlds there. But for sure, I don't think he liked being down there in Italy for whatever reason. You know, maybe just the nature of the tracks are so far removed from everything else that we get, you know, hard pack and slick, apart from Malagrotto, which is DeCarli's track, which they can rip and prep and water and almost simulate, you know, those kind of conditions. But you also need to ride more than one track during the course of the year, you know. So either way, it's working for him at the moment. Double podium for Triumph Racing MX2 factory team. Guillaume Ferrez, we mentioned a moment ago. Second overall with the third and the fourth. Yes, he got hung out to dry by Simon Langenfelder in that second race. We've covered that. And Camden McClellan, third overall with a 6 and a second. McClellan actually surprised me because he had good speed. He fell from 5th early in race 1 and, you know, went down to about 9th or 10th and had to get back to that 6th position. And we saw his speed in race 2. For him, a good base to start from in particular, but the team as well. Guillaume Ferrez, Camden McClellan, to have both guys on the podium, that was pretty solid for, you know, for the relative newcomers still to MX2. Yeah, they've been around now, 2-3 years, but even still, a good start for them. No question.
To see them round out the podium, I think was a surprise for everybody. That goes without saying. McClellan, I expected him to be top 5, and I expect him to be top 5 most of the season. Ferrez being second, 3 points out of the championship after round 1, to me is a wow moment. Like I just did
They
not.
both had a race win last year, by the way. So
yeah,
you know,
I just didn't see it coming, and maybe that's a blind spot for me. But I know that was my immediate reaction and emotion. I was like, wow. So that has to feel great. Think about kind of the adrenaline and the momentum he's riding back into Spain. You know, I know he probably is not from anywhere near where this round is, but so what? It's still your home GP. It's still Spain. He's going to have everybody's support at this event. So, yeah, good for him. We all know his story, right? He was working a full-time job, working at a grocery store, finds his way into the U.S., you know, after racing some EMX. Like, this is a true success story. And I like just cheering for this kid because I think he understands what it would be like to not be racing at all. And now you see him second in the championship. It's hard not to be happy for this kid.
The bikes look good as well. They looked on point. They looked like they got pace. And when we come back down off the mountain to sort of sea level, where, you know, you expect the very best out of those motorcycles, I think Triumph are going to be contenders all season long.
Yeah. And like when going back, 2 summers ago, right? Coming up on 2 years ago, speaking to Joey Savacci, some of the riders in the U.S. that were riding the Triumph in the 250 class in motocross, they always talked about how great the chassis was. Joey Savacci's on record as saying it was the best chassis he had ever ridden, the most stable, but he was always looking for more engine. Like the engine was the one thing, if he had more torque, more power, he could have been more competitive. But seems like they've figured that out, at least for the MX2 class. Don't really know what that precludes for the stateside portion of this, but it seems like they've taken a step in the engine package, which is making a big difference.
Well, let's see how things pan out from round 2 onwards. Liam Everts, 4th in the qualifying race after a turn 1 crash, 4th overall in the GP, got a 7th and a 3rd, was riding with sickness. I saw him sort of sneaking in, hoodie, jacket on Sunday morning, you know, very incognito. Asked him how he was. He just said, no, not good. Woken up with feeling sick. So to be out there for 10, 11 laps in race 1, in race 2, leading the way, and then eventually drop to 3rd. Yeah, you're at altitude a little bit. Nothing sort of Denver mile high, but altitude like that anyway. And when you're feeling under the weather and you've already put in a good shift in the qualifying race to get off the ground to 4th to give yourself a good start position. I think overall, Nastan Husqvarna sort of and Liam should be able to take something away from that Grand Prix. What do you reckon? Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that because where I live is right around 850 meters. So that's my everyday experience. And it is a little noticeable, right? When I go down to sea level, come back, I do my cardio. I can tell a little bit. So I do know it matters some. I remember riding when I was here, definitely could tell the lack of power on the motorcycle. But I got to speak with Stefan a week ago, right after the event. And he you never know. One of the most successful is the most world titles. Also the father. You never know what you're going to get as far as like
how was your son's performance? He was really proud of him, mostly because of what you said of the sickness. For him to overcome that, still lead laps, still show what he had, not feeling anywhere near 100%. I think it really kind of foreshadows success moving forward, right? If you can be that on that level, that far away, feeling sick, what's going to happen when you're 100% is, I think, the takeaway that Stefan had. So, yeah, we'll see what he brings this weekend. But all in all, when there's a lot of adversity and you can still run around the front, I think that shows a lot about who you are and the step you're ready to take.
Moving on to the Yamaha boys, Carlos and Yanis Racialis. Now, when you say cactus and the plural of cactus, you say cacti, right? And obviously, Racialis, you can't say Racialis is. So it's got to be Raciali, hasn't it? The Raciali brothers.
Yep.
Yeah?
I think so.
Yanis.
There's a media company called Octopi, which is multiple octopuses. Yeah, so I'm fine with it. Raciali, yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, the Raciali, the youngest, Yanis, his first GP, he was running up there in a qualifying race, got whole shots in the quali race and race one, came away with 6.46 across the three races, just 17 years old, his first ever Grand Prix. And then you got older brother Carlos, he whole shot race too. So between the two of them, they bagged all three whole shots over the three races. Carlos was a 10th, a 9th, a 5th. A decent start for Yamaha, certainly for Yanis, whose first year as a factory rider. Are you kind of the same opinion as the MXGP team, where they now need to step up and everything else? And how do they go about that? And how crucial is Yanis, the younger, going to be to their program this year?
Well, I think this was promising because it has not been smooth sailing for the boys in blue over there. And when you look at their roster coming in, they don't really have that superstar, right? Where they've had Yago. They've had guys where like, well, he's going to win races, Benestant, whoever. When I looked at this, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. They have a lot of promise. They have potential. They're young. But this could also kind of be a season without a lot of headlines for Yamaha. I thought that was a brilliant way to start. Get yourself in front, whole shots, run around in podium position. I think that's exactly what they needed. Now, they need to have follow through. They need to take a step, as you mentioned. But if you're looking for just some sort of positivity to get this season started in the right direction, I think they got that. I think that was what they really needed to show early on, because this class is deep. They're up against former champions. It's not going to be easy. But yeah, to your question, I think it was a really positive start.
Kawasaki Racing Team, Mathis Valin. You got a 3rd in the quali race, a 5th in race 1, a 7th in race 2, 6th overall in the GP. It was relatively quiet on Sunday, I thought. So I don't know what was going on there, because he's going to be one of the guys that we expect to be contending in contention for the championship in MX2 after his sort of rookie season last year. Starts let him down, I think. And if he does get starts, can we see him at the sharp end?
Yeah, I think I think he will be better. Starts were definitely a thing. And Antti and the team will be all over that, trying to sort that problem out for round 2. But I also think that maybe just conditions weren't perfect for him. I imagine him as hard pack tracks are a little bit better for him. Having ruts to kind of flow through are better for him. He's such a technical rider. And this track was faster, just not a lot of like specific lines. You just had to be willing to kind of send it, for lack of a better word. So I do think he will be better from here. And I think conditions week to week, we get into some of the French rounds. We'll see how sandy this track in Spain ends up being. But yeah, I do think he'll be much better. And I think moving forward, he's going to be a guy that's on the podium more times than not.
Last but not least, we can't have an MXGP podcast and not talk about Sasha Coenen. Perfect on Saturday. Fastest in the free practice, time practice, came away with a qualifying race win. Even though Simon Langenfelder unlapped himself with a couple of laps to go. Now you can argue, Sasha didn't need to defend or didn't need to challenge that. But psychologically, from Simon's point of view, he was pushing, made that pass. That was kind of like a little message to Sasha, maybe on Saturday, just saying, look, I'm the defending champion. We get to Sunday. Sasha Coenen, poor starts, poor positioning, therefore, when it came to the first turn. Looked like he tried to overcompensate, dive bombed the first corner both times, stayed up on 2 wheels. He recovered well to second in the first race, but then that big crash coming out of turn 2, the first jump, the monster jump, where it looked like Jens Wolvort if you go back and watch the replay, he came up short and already had his shoulders hunched because he was expecting the inevitable. Latter landed on him. Warvort bounced away unharmed and continued in the race. And obviously Sasha got caught up in the melee as well, had nowhere to go. He's now 18 points off the leader, Simon Langenfelder, after the first round. Are we concerned? Was it a bike problem that forced him out of the race? Because it looked like he was looking down at his right leg. You said you've spoken to David DeCarli. Is he okay? What was the situation there? And what were your overall thoughts on Sasha in round one?
For me, Sasha is, there's a saying, and it comes from NFL lore of we are who they thought they were, or we thought they were, right? Like, this is who Sasha is. And I don't say that with all positivity. This guy can win races. He can win every time he lines up on a speed, on an ability, great starts, great pace, so much intensity, but the crashes come with that so far. And until he finds a way where he can be that quick and that good every weekend and remove the risk down, and maybe removes it the wrong word, but reduce the risk a little bit, I don't think anything's going to change. And that brings me no joy to say, but we've seen enough at this point to know that incredible results and spectacular crashes almost are going to come hand in hand with Sasha Coenen. And I don't know at what point. Maybe it's when he moves to the 450, a la Lucas, right? Maybe the 450, not having to push the bike to this place where you're trying to wring every ounce of power out of it. You can back the intensity down. Maybe that's the change. But for now, I haven't seen anything that's going to change. And I've asked him about this. Like, hey, have you ever thought about like maybe just 1% less? And he's like, I'm not really pushing, right? And I've asked people around him, and he doesn't feel like he's on the edge. To me, that's the real problem, is I don't know that he understands yet where the limit is. And it's easy for me to say that sitting on a couch. I fully am appreciative of that. But watching him, I don't feel like he knows where his own limit is, and he'll be over the limit and not realize it, and then you see him on the ground. That, to me, it always seems like it catches him by surprise, where most riders, they can kind of feel it coming. You talk about on the broadcast all the time is like, there's a warning sign. Are they going to heed it? Are they going to back off a little bit to make sure that they don't go down? It doesn't seem like Sasha gets that warning at all.
He's got speed, though.
Oh,
absolutely.
No question.
So, as you say, when he stays on two wheels and when he's 100% in the zone, in the right frame of mind, he's a one-oneer all day long, isn't he?
He is.
Double race winner.
If he could ever figure out, like, when the dash light comes on flashing red warning signs, if he could heed that and understand, like, okay, maybe the win's not in the cards because I'm on the limit here, but I can settle in and get second or third, no problem. I think when he fully grasps that, I think then he'll become a true championship contender for the long term.
Sure. Well, look, JT, we are out of time. Thank you to you. Thanks to FMF for sponsoring the MXGP official podcast once again. And of course, we hope you enjoy all of the action this weekend, wherever you are. Obviously, Birmingham, Alabama for Monster Energy Supercross. Obviously, MXGP-TV.com for round 2, the MXGP of Andalusia. And we'll see you again about a month from now as we wrap up, the next couple of rounds on this MXGP official podcast. So once again, JT, thank you. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll touch base again soon. Thanks for watching. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. See you again soon. Bye for now.
MXGP, the podcast.